Good afternoon, everybody. It is January 27th, and this is going to be the second part of the video series that I'm doing on cold weather crop planting. Yesterday, I posted a video about cold weather leafy greens that handle frost and freezes very well. And I planted romaine, four-season lettuce, and kale. To the bed that I planted them in, I'm also going to add this spinach and this mesclun sweet salad mix, which are also tolerant to hard frosts and hard freezes down to about 20 degrees or so. So they're going to get added to the bed that I put in yesterday. This video, I specifically want to focus on root vegetables. I'm going to do a third video in this series on brassicas, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and also peas are another great option for frost-tolerant vegetables. That'll be part 3. I'm going to put these off to the side, and I'm going to focus specifically on the root vegetables. They are carrots, beets, and radishes. There are plenty of other cold-tolerant root vegetables that you can grow as well, like turnips is another great example. But I want to focus on these because these are my favorite root vegetables. Above this video, I'm going to link to part 1 of my series because in part 1, I went into more detail about calculating when to plant your cold weather crops and when it's most appropriate. I'm going to skip a lot of this and I'm just going to go right into the meat and potatoes for the varieties that I'm going to be planting. I'm going to be planting two types of carrots. A carnival blend, which is a mix of red, yellow, and white carrots that I had great success with last year. We had a 100-year January, and we hit 8 degrees 2 nights in a row. And the carrots, which were already established at the time, handled it like champs. I'm assuming this cosmic purple carrot will have similar hardiness. I'm going to grow a golden beet and a red beet. And I've had great luck with early wonder because it germinates usually pretty quickly and it matures pretty quickly. And I'm also going to grow this German giant radish, which I've never grown before. Last winter I grew French radishes, and this is supposed to be a much larger radish, so I think I'll like this a lot better. So your first step is going to be to turn over all of your seed packets, and you want to see what the spacing of your seeds should be. So, for example, this carrot blend tells you to sow at a 1/4 inch depth and to space each seed 1 inch. Victory Seed puts their information on the front. They tell you to plant the seeds a 1/4 inch deep and 1/2 inch apart for carrots. So we're going to be following the directions for them. The beets, on the other hand, beet seeds are different because each beet seed is a cluster of 6 individual seeds. So when you plant one beet seed, you're going to get a whole bunch of different beets coming up that you'll have to thin out later. If you read the information here, it tells you to sow the seed a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch deep and 1 inch apart, and then you're going to have to thin the plants when they are 1.5 to 3 inches tall. And generally beets need about 3 inches of space on either side because the root masses get pretty big. So for example, this beet says space one seed every 4 inches, and then when 2 inches tall, thin one every 4 inches, because each beet seed is going to give you a bunch of different beets. Finally, the German giant radish tells you to sow the seeds a 1/2 inch deep and a 1/2 inch apart. So that's what we're going to do. Most of these are going to be pretty tight spacing, and we're going to plant a lot more than we need to because we expect that all of the seed is not going to germinate, and we want to get as much germination as possible, and it's easier to overplant and then thin them out later. In my video yesterday, I showed you that I mark all over my raised beds 1 foot increments for square foot gardening. So, as you can see, each of these spaces from here to here, that's 1 foot, and from here to here, that's 1 foot. I also have the hash marks on the length of my bed as well. And generally, most plants want a foot or 2 row spacing, so this is a great way to easily and conveniently space your rows. I also showed you in my video yesterday this string line I pull this string line between rows, and that way it will give you an even line for you to put your crops in. You simply roll this out in the center of your row, and then from there you can dig your trowel into the raised bed. And that will give you a very nice straight row that you can easily space 1 foot apart. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that for all of my rows. Okay, all of my rows are in. The first 2 rows you can see have 1 foot spacing. Those are going to be for the beets, because I find that since beets get around 3 or 4 inches in diameter, they benefit from additional row spacing. The 4 rows in the back, 2 of them are going to be for my 2 different types of carrot. The other 2 are going to be for my 1 type of radish. And they only need about 6-inch spacing because they only get about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in diameter. So they don't need quite the amount of width between rows to grow. One thing you'll also notice is that I've only put rows in half my bed. I'm going to save that other half of the bed for later, because I practice something called succession cropping, and you should too. You need to really think about how you're going to eat your vegetables before you plant them. If I were to plant this entire bed all at once, I would go from having absolutely no root vegetables to having more than I know what to do with. So I'm trying to plant them in a more reasonable manner where I can actually eat what I can harvest. So that second half of the bed is going to remain empty, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plant the exact same vegetables in here a month from now. That way I'll be able to eat what I'm planting today, and then a month later I'll have a whole fresh new crop in the back half of the bed. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to sow our seed. We are going to sow the beet seed about 1.5 inches apart, keeping in mind that each individual beet seed will grow about 4 to 6 beets, and you'll have to thin them out later. The carrot and radish seeds we're going to space about 1/2 inch apart, with the understanding that once they germinate, we're going to go ahead and we're going to yank out the additional ones that are too close together, and we're going to give them final seedling spacing of about 1.5 inches. The seed spacing doesn't have to be exact. You can just ballpark it. Now that we have all of our seeds planted, we're going to close up the rows and we're going to water them in. And that completes the planting of our first round of cold weather hardy root vegetables. If you haven't already, I suggest that you go back and you look at part 1 of this series, because I get into more of the science of cold weather gardening. including checking soil temperatures to make sure that they're adequate for germination, because soil temperature really does play a big role in how successful you're going to be with these cold weather vegetables. And I'm going to follow up this video with another video on my cruciferous vegetables that I'll be planting, mainly broccoli and broccoli rabe, but the list is pretty long that you can plant at this time in the winter. I hope you found this video useful. Thanks a lot for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for regular updates and you can see the progress, as well as watch future instructional videos. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you again next time.